It was supposed to be a fun, lighthearted evening. My company always held a Christmas party, and this year they rented out the top floor of an office building downtown. It was one of those buildings with floor-to-ceiling windows, offering a panoramic view of the city skyline. Festive decorations were everywhere. Twinkling string lights, a massive Christmas tree, and tables piled high with catered food. The atmosphere was cheerful, almost infectious. I wasn't particularly close with most of my coworkers, but I figured I'd hang around, grab a drink, and enjoy the free food. The party started at 7 p.m., and by 9, it was in full swing. People were laughing, dancing to cheesy Christmas music, and taking selfies with Santa hats and reindeer antlers. I was nursing my second drink near the back corner of the room when I noticed something odd. One of the windows facing the adjacent building seemed darker than the others. At first, I thought it was just the lighting or maybe my drink messing with my perception. But as I stared, I noticed something or someone standing in the window of the neighboring building. It was a shadowy figure, completely motionless. I squinted, trying to make out details, but they were too far away. I nudged my coworker, Sarah, and pointed it out. "Do you see that?" I asked. She glanced at the window and shrugged. "It's probably just someone from the other office." "Maybe," I said, though I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling creeping up my spine. The figure was so still, too still for someone casually looking out a window. I tried to brush it off, but every time I glanced back, the shadow was still there, standing perfectly motionless. Around 10 p.m., the party started winding down. People were either heading home or making plans to continue the night at a bar nearby. I wasn't feeling the bar scene, so I decided to stay a bit longer and help clean up. A few of us stayed behind to pack up leftover food and tidy the space. The music was off, and the room felt quieter, almost eerily so. That's when the building's power flickered. The lights dimmed for a moment before coming back on. It was quick, but it was enough to make all of us freeze for a second. Someone joked about it being a Christmas ghost, and we all laughed nervously. But when I glanced back at the window, the figure was gone. A knot formed in my stomach. I didn't say anything, not wanting to sound paranoid, but I couldn't help but feel like we were being watched. Around 10:30, it was just me, Sarah, and our coworker Mike left. We were packing the last of the food into containers when we heard a loud bang. It came from the hallway outside the event space. The three of us froze, exchanging nervous glances. "What was that?" Sarah whispered. Mike, trying to act brave, grabbed his phone and turned on the flashlight. "Probably just something falling over. I'll check it out." "Wait," I said, not wanting to let him go alone. "I'll come with you." We stepped into the dimly lit hallway. It stretched about 20 feet before turning a corner, and the end was shrouded in shadow. Everything was unnervingly quiet except for the faint hum of the building's HVAC system. We slowly walked toward the corner, the beam of Mike's flashlight bouncing off the polished floors and walls. As we reached the corner, another bang echoed from further down the hallway, making both of us jump. "That sounded closer," Mike muttered. "Let's just go back," I said. "It's probably nothing," but Mike shook his head and kept walking. I reluctantly followed, my heart pounding in my chest. The hallway led to a door marked stairwell, and the sound seemed to be coming from inside. Mike pushed the door open, and the faint smell of something metallic wafted out. "Hello," Mike called, his voice echoing up the empty stairwell. Silence. We stood there for a moment, listening, when suddenly we heard the faint sound of footsteps, slow and deliberate, coming from above us. I grabbed Mike's arm. "Let's go back." But he just stood there, staring up the stairwell. "It's probably security." "Then why wouldn't they just say something?" I whispered. Before he could answer, the footsteps stopped. The silence that followed was deafening. And then, without warning, the stairwell door slammed shut behind us. We both jumped, and Mike fumbled with the handle, but it wouldn't budge. "Is this some kind of joke?" Mike said, his voice shaking. "It's not funny," I yelled, banging on the door. That's when we heard it. A low, guttural laugh echoing down the stairwell. It was deep, almost inhuman, and it sent a chill down my spine. "Who's there?" Mike shouted, his voice cracking. The laughter stopped. For a moment, there was only silence, and then the footsteps started again, faster this time, descending the stairs toward us. I yanked on the door handle with all my strength, and finally, it gave way. Mike and I stumbled back into the hallway, slamming the door shut behind us. We bolted back to the event space where Sarah was waiting. "What happened?" she asked, her eyes wide. "Someone's in the stairwell," I said, struggling to catch my breath. "We need to leave." Mike grabbed his phone to call security, but his face went pale. "No signal." "What?" Sarah said, pulling out her own phone. "Mine's not working either." We stood there in stunned silence, the weight of the situation sinking in. That's when we heard it, a loud crash from inside the event space, followed by the sound of glass shattering. We spun around to see one of the large windows cracked, a jagged line running through the glass. Outside, the city lights twinkled, oblivious to the nightmare unfolding inside. And then we saw it, a dark figure standing just outside the broken window, impossibly high up, staring in at us. It didn't move, but the sight of it was enough to send us running. We didn't stop until we reached the elevators, frantically pressing the button. When the doors finally opened, we piled in and hit the ground floor button repeatedly. As the elevator descended, we stood in tense silence, each of us listening for any sound of pursuit. When the doors opened, we sprinted out into the lobby and out onto the street. We didn't stop running until we were several blocks away. None of us said a word, too shaken to process what had just happened. The next day, I found out that the office building didn't have security working that night, and the neighboring building, it had been abandoned for years. I don't know who or what was watching us that night, but I haven't been to another office party since, and I don't plan to.